Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Byron Donalds just sounds off on these ridiculous Democrat governors in Tim Walz and Kathy Hochul. The way he calls them out makes him sound more like a governor than they ever will. Let's dive in.
You are spending about roughly $4 billion on illegal immigration. And at the same time, you are actually asking the federal government for $4 billion to finish Penn Station. Don't you think it would be better to stop funding illegal immigrants in your state and actually use those resources to finish Penn Station as opposed to coming to the federal government for the money?
Penn Station is owned by Amtrak, not by the state, so it's an appropriate use of their dollars, and Donald Trump has agreed to spend upwards of $7 billion. I appreciated that very much. What we spend on immigrants, the immigrants who are here hardworking to live a life and working on our farms and taking care of our parents in nursing homes and taking care of our children, they have been coming here for 400 years. And we don't keep track of individuals based on their status. We make sure that people have services so we don't end up with an unexpected.
So essentially what you're telling me is that you keep no track of money that is going to people who are not legal in the United States, resources that are taken away from New Yorkers, resources that are taken away from Illinoisans. You guys do not keep track of any of this.
You know what's really challenging is that many people came here with legal status. I mean, temporary protective status, 300,000.
Do you
all of a sudden they wake up one day and it's gone.
Do you go along with the strategy from the Biden administration, which massively expanded immigration protocols that overwhelmed your city and overwhelmed your state? Do you agree with that?
We call for secure borders. We call for this body to
I never
do its
remember
job.
you calling for secure borders at all, Governor Hochul.
We certainly have.
That
We
doesn't
certainly
sound
have.
like him to my memory.
Many conversations I had with the White House. We asked for federal resources. I mean, you're putting a federal problem on our laps, and you know what? It gets old after a while. I wish you would just do your job.
If your
here
party
and
actually would
pass
do the job of
meaningful reform.
securing the nation the way President Trump has now had to do twice, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Wouldn't you agree? Do you agree or disagree that securing the nation's borders is the job of the President of the United States? President Trump has done that job twice now.
Well,
and previous Democrat presidents have not done that job. Wouldn't you agree with that?
this has been a problem that's been in place since I was a young staffer here on Capitol Hill. We worked on immigration, and Ronald Reagan signed amnesty for 3 million people.
You know, it's interesting you bring up Reagan's amnesty in '86. You know, part of that deal was to actually build border wall and secure it. But the Democrat Party refuses to build border wall. You oppose it every single time. Is that your position? Do you now support border walls?
There
Governor
has
Hochul?
been many times when bipartisan legislation is presented to this body and people just walk away from it. They refuse to do the hard work of governing like governors like us have to do every single day. When I leave here, I'm going to go home and govern a state. I'm not going to tweet about this experience because I have too much work to do taking care of New Yorkers. And
you're really not doing a good job, Governor Hochul, because a lot of New Yorkers are actually coming into my state, in Florida. Many of them, they come all the time because they actually want to come to a state that is well run, that protects citizens, does not allow illegal aliens to victimize citizens like they are victimized in the state of New York, like they are victimized in the state of Illinois, like they are victimized in the state of Minnesota. They choose states like Florida and Texas to find safer places to live and raise their families. Hold on, Governor Hochul. We've had enough time.
Crime rates are much
Governor
lower
Walz,
than
you've been
yours.
sitting over there
Much
pretty
lower.
quiet. I got a question for you.
I love to talk. Thank you, Congressman.
Fair enough. You said earlier that the ICE agents under the orders of President Trump are a modern-day Gestapo. Do you realize how disgusting a phrase that is, considering the history of Nazi Germany? Would you like to recant that statement?
What I said, Congressman, and I have a long history of supporting law enforcement, I said President Trump was using them as his modern-day Gestapo, not identifying who you are, coming up in unmarked vans, taking people away and giving...
Is it the responsibility of ICE to actually deport illegal aliens in the United States who are here? Isn't that their responsibility?
Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either-or.
Nobody
You
said
can
an
do your
inconvenience.
job and
You have a
practice due
responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the
Through due
president is
process.
going through that process right now.
We are
And
not
let's
just-
be very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo. Governor, you're wrong. You need to apologize to these agents. They're doing their jobs. They are Americans. They serve this country with honor and decency and respect. Do not diminish their work simply because you tried to make a cheap point that you could tweet. I yield back.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is how a governor is supposed to act, okay? Not like Tim Walz, not like Kathy Hochul, definitely not like Governor Pritzker. Byron Donalds is considering a gubernatorial run in Florida once DeSantis is out of office, so that's going to be a very interesting theme to follow. And he's probably going to be pretty good at it. But that's not the important thing about this video. Oh, no. The important thing is to look at these Democrats, look at these Democrat governors, and hear what they have to say, and then hear their own responses to these criticisms. Kathy Hochul is evil. Like, truly vile, evil. She knows what she's doing, she knows it's wrong, and she does it anyway because she enjoys it. Tim Walz, on the other hand, is sort of under that weird spell of communism. And there's a different breed of cat out up there in Minnesota. They create a bunch of very weird politicians that don't mesh well with the rest of America. So I can give that a pass. But Pritzker was also talking, and he had to constantly deflect from the fact that, yeah, my state doesn't actually, monitor illegal immigration. Democrats can't govern. They can't. They either can't govern because they're governed by people like Tim Walz, who fundamentally just do the wrong thing over and over and over again and just don't know any better, or they do the wrong thing over and over again and think it's the right thing, or worse in the case of Pritzker and definitely in the case of Hochul. They do evil because they like it. And I also have to enter a small retraction. It's not your conscience never bothered you, it's and your conscience never haunted you. So I got the title of the book that I'm actually reading at this on this very day a little bit off. But their conscience doesn't bother them. It doesn't bother them because you're either too ignorant to know better, like Tim Walz, or you actually enjoy it, like Kathy Hochul. This woman has chosen the worst possible set of policies, and she sits there stone-faced, stone-eyed, like she has had her soul just ripped from her body. She quite literally looks like she gave up her soul decades ago. And then she has the gall to sit there in front of Congress and say, actually, this is a problem ever since Ronald Reagan. I don't see someone else taking care of this issue. No, ma'am. The buck stops in New York. In New York, the buck stops with you. You can deal with these problems. You can deal with these issues. You can actually get a handle on it, like states like Texas, like states like Florida, which, by the way, the reason so many people move to Texas, to Florida, and North Carolina and Georgia, for instance, is because these states, and this has sort of been recent American history, by the way, these states have been very Republican and very pro-business. What happens when you're Republican and pro-business? You grow. Your system ends up working better because now the market is able to thrive. And, the invention of air conditioning has been a godsend. As someone who lives down here in the dirty South, even though no one actually calls it that. And so you have so many people moving to these Republican states, but what happens then is eventually everyone gets a slice of the pie, everyone feels a little guilty about it, and so they start voting Democrat in order to redistribute the money in a more fair and just manner, and it doesn't work. If it worked, New Mexico would be one of the best states in the union. It's one of our worst. California would not be basically an insane asylum. The old American history joke used to be South Carolina, too small to be an independent republic, too large to be an insane asylum. Now it's California. Then you have Illinois, which has driven out its middle class, basically told to take a hike, and it's worst in New York State. And it got even worse under Kathy Hochul. And she's out there blaming Congress for not getting a handle on this illegal immigration problem. I'm sorry, ma'am. Who was the president for the past 4 years that incorrectly used Alejandro Mayorkas and told him to be as maliciously incompetent as possible? That's what happened. under the last administration, the greatest mistake in American history. We've seen a mistake like this actually before. The choosing of Benjamin Harrison over Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland was a reformer. Because he was Democrat and they were still waving the bloody shirt in the 1880s, they didn't really trust the dude. And so the American people, thanks to the Electoral College, voted in Benjamin Harrison, but he was such a failed experiment that they put Grover Cleveland back in the White House 4 years later. This is happening again. And so we have two different rounds of American history coming to pass here. This is what happens when Democrats, modern Democrats, by the way, I'm not talking about the ones in the 1800s, I'm talking about the ones after Woodrow Wilson. The modern Democrat Party thinks it knows what it's doing, and they don't. Or worse, in the case of Kathy Hochul, they know what they're doing is wrong. They know what they're doing is evil, and they will blame someone else. They will deny responsibility. They will deflect to anything that they can in order to shift the blame from them because they know what they're doing is fundamentally wrong. And they get elected, all because they cater to a mindset that does not fundamentally understand what it's doing. So yeah, and your conscience never haunted you? That's a darn good question to ask. Byron Donalds knows what he's asking about. Kathy Hochul knows what she's saying. Tim Walz, he's almost a bless your heart kind of character, but ultimately, these Democrat governors know what they're doing, and they know it's wrong. And Byron Donalds is right to call them out. Hopefully one day, they'll come to their senses, but I wouldn't put money on it. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.